Hello everyone, good morning and welcome to Fanshawe College Virtual Open House. My name is Caitlin Smith and I work in the International Office at Fanshawe College. Before we begin today's session, I would like to just go over a couple quick housekeeping items so that everyone understands what's going to happen. Your audience webcams and microphones are turned off at the moment, so you won't be able to ask your questions audibly, but you can type them into the question box. If you have any questions, please be sure to feature them or input them into the questions feature by clicking on the question mark. Following the session, we will be reviewing the questions in a live Q&A with our presenters. We'll go over all of the questions submitted and we'll try our best to get through all of them within the time we have. If you have any questions that were not addressed or that you don't want to type into the chat today, you can email myfuture@fanshawec, like college, fanshawec.ca. Or book an appointment with one of our international representatives to discuss your question further. If you have multiple programs open and running on your computer, your experience today with the webinar might be impacted. So we do recommend closing any other programs on your computer except the webinar. Now, I would like to introduce our speakers. Today we're joined by William Pohl and Russell Schnurr, who are going to be speaking about the GIS, Geographic Information Systems and Urban Planning Program. Again, I'll be back at the end of the session for the Q&A, and I'm going to pass it over to our speakers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Caitlin. My name is Russell Schnurr. I would like to welcome everybody today to the GIS and Urban Planning session. We're going to start off the session today with a video that was created by Fanshawe students from the television and film production program here at the college.
The GIS and Urban Planning Program is a unique combination of geographic information systems, so digital mapping and digital design work, combined with urban planning as the field of study, land use plans, official plans, subdivisions, all of the instruments that help make a city great.
I knew that this program was the one for me after spending a year in university and a year off. I knew that I wanted to go to college, and I knew that I always liked maps and geography and planning, so I thought that this would be a great program for me.
I would say my favorite project that I've done in this program so far was the creation of a draft plan of subdivision in our AutoCAD class.
I chose Fanshawe because it was an option that offered a pathway after the 2-year GIS and Urban Planning program.
Recently, we are working with the City of London through an initiative called City Studio. We're working on a site in Soho, or south of Horton Street, which is just south of the downtown in London. And we like to get our students out for site visits so that they can get a feel for the context in which they're designing. If you don't visit the neighborhood, you don't experience it, you don't see some of the issues and struggles that an area may be facing. So taking the students out on site, you really start to understand the context, and that's super important when you're trying to come up with design solutions.
Effective urban planning is really instrumental to good city building. The skills and theories that our students learn are taken into the workplace, taken into municipalities, into rural areas to help build better, much better cities. And the technical skills that they have allow counselors, allow planners to make really good planning decisions, and that's what we're all about.
So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the session. My name is William Pohl, and I'll start you off on our presentation of the GIS and Urban Planning program here at Fanshawe College. Here we have a typical downtown urban form of development. It's vacant, underutilized land. A lot of the teaching and learning we do is thinking about how we can recreate these spaces. We look at both the downtowns as well as the suburban areas and how these lands can be designed to create attractive, vibrant neighborhoods. There's all kinds of issues and concerns that we have with suburban development, how they fit into the larger context, how the cities grow and evolve over time. We also look at small communities in rural parts of Ontario, looking at how they can contribute to the amenity and landscape for places to live, for people to enjoy, and have a different type of urban experience. And last but not least, we look at environmentally sustainable practices like renewable wind energy and how they connect to the larger rural areas. We look at farming and agriculture as part of our broader GIS and urban planning experience. And we take our skills and our ideas and our theories, and we look at how designs can evolve and change. This is an example of a net zero energy project here in London, Ontario. And we look at design ideas for urban infill and urban renewal opportunities. So land use planning is the overall subject matter. These are the principles, the theories, the ideas. And under that theory, under that subject matter, we look at geographic information systems, AutoCAD 3D visualizations. We look at presentation graphics, how to graphically represent our ideas. We take those skills and those theories, we use them in co-op work terms, and develop a really experiential type of learning here in the GIS and urban planning program. We focus a lot on collaborative, multidisciplinary experience, working with the community, working with other faculties here at the college to broaden and create that real life experience.
Students learn a lot of software in the GIS and urban planning program, and of course, GIS being a huge part of that. GIS applications are used each term to help support planning-based projects using various forms of spatial analysis. We use ArcGIS Pro by Esri, but we also explore open source GIS applications like QGIS. You'll also be spending some of your time doing design work, as Will has talked about, creating various 2D plans in AutoCAD. So you'll learn how to use AutoCAD and become very proficient in it. Then you'll bring those plans into life using 3D software applications like SketchUp. And then we'll render those for presentation purposes using Lumion Pro and Twinmotion. One of the most important skills that you learn is visual literacy, and Will alluded to it earlier. It's that ability to take these complex planning ideas, these drawings, these analysis, and present them clearly and effectively. Students learn how to use Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign applications to present their work. And when you learn all of this software, it's important to realize quickly, and we introduce this to students early on, is that all of these applications can work together to develop workflows. By the time you graduate, you can walk into any office and start producing on day one. No matter what software applications they have, you understand the tools, you can put them together to create a workflow that allows you to be productive. In fact, employers have grown to expect it from our graduates that they can come in the first day and start to add value to their work. And it's pretty amazing to see what can start as a sketch or some notes on a piece of paper, and what our students can do with that information through visualization, through GIS analysis, and then presenting it in an effective way. We'll also talk about collaboration and working with people that will work within industry. So we have something called the Urban Design Charrette, and every winter, in the winter term, we have GIS urban planning and landscape design students coming together for 1 week. At the beginning of the week, you're given a design issue, and students have 1 week to develop a solution to address that urban planning issue, and then present their work to industry partners. Just a couple of the projects that we've worked on recently. Across Canada, there has been a growing number of surplus school sites, whether that's through changing enrollment or decommissioning of older schools. And students explored redevelopment options for school sites within London and the surrounding areas. And last year, we worked with landscape design students and our community partner called Reforest London, who was hoping to create a new Center for Sustainability at the Westminster Pond site here in London, Ontario. The GIS Urban Planning Program is also a co-op program. So we have work terms each summer. And one of the benefits of having a work term in the summer in your last term is that you can start applying for not only co-op positions in May, or before May. You can also be applying for full-time permanent positions out in industry. The important thing to remember is that we do have a co-op consultant that posts jobs internally, but you have to be willing to relocate to those positions or even start looking on your own, and we'll give you the resources for that as well. But we do have co-op placements with municipalities, conservation authorities, health units, private industry, consulting firms.
So a big part of our experience is going out on class trips. We normally go to the Greater Toronto area and look at specific sites like Hawthorne Village in Milton, or Liberty Village in downtown Toronto, or the Distillery District in Toronto. These experiences give us inspiration, they give us ideas, they get to see what our designs could look like in real life. Last year we went to the Evergreen Brickworks in downtown Toronto and used that as inspiration for our project on the Reforest London site here in London. In second year, we like to take our students to a major North American city. We've gone to Pittsburgh, Chicago, Montreal, and here we get to experience unique urban design projects and ideas. We get to see the redevelopment of Pittsburgh, the beautiful architecture of Chicago, and the ambiance of Montreal. Once you graduate from the GIS and Urban Planning Diploma Program, there are degree pathways to continue on your education. We have articulation agreements with Ryerson University and Waterloo University that are accredited planning programs with the Canadian Institute of Planners. Another option here at Fanshawe College is to go on to a degree in environmental design and planning. You're enrolled into third year. At Ryerson and Waterloo, you go into third and second years. And you can also continue on at Dalhousie University in Halifax. We're celebrating 5 years of collaborative learning with the Donald J. Smith School of Technology in Architectural Technology, where we've collaborated on projects here in Ontario. We've partnered with the Husevka Family, who has sponsored our collaborative project as a memory to their son, who was a student here and who passed away suddenly in 1995. Through the Husevka Foundation, we worked in Brights Grove, which was a vacant agricultural land. We've worked in Petrolia, for the redevelopment of former brownfield sites. And last year we were working in Mitten Village. You can see the professors there holding the pumpkins, where we were redeveloping a downtown site in the city of Sarnia. This gives us an opportunity to see and get a sense of that community. We had community engagement sessions in Mitten Village and Sarnia, and we were able to interact with architectural students, with community members and staff to come up with some really interesting designs. This is an example of our Mitten Village project. On the bottom left, you see 3D visualizations. On the right, you have representations of demographics, land uses, natural features, transportation, that all work together to create a new, renewed Mitten Village area.
We have also created something called the Urban 360 Lab. So when we talk about co-ops, we talk about all of this experiential learning, going out in to communities and developing partnerships. For every time we go out into the public to work on something, we have 3 or 4 more requests to do other work for different people in different groups. So we've created something called the Urban 360 Lab, which actually allows us to hire students in the summer to help us work on projects that may not fit into the typical academic year. One of the sites we've worked on is in St. Thomas, Ontario. And on the slide in front of you, you can see a giant Tiger store. So it has sort of the yellow front there, surrounded by a sea of parking. And the long building, sort of up to the left, is a heritage building, a former railway station called the Queso Station. And beyond that, we have a multi-use trail system that follows the existing railway corridor. And it's sort of an inconsistent walking system at the time we were looking at this site. Students in the Urban 360 Lab, because the Giant Tiger site was going to be replaced by a food basics store, they were going through the site plan approval process. And it's a public process where people can go in and offer their comments and feedback. And we decided to take in some visualizations by the students that show maybe how the parking lot could be reconfigured to allow for a safe pedestrian access to our main street, Talbot Street, which runs along the top right across the photo there. Students created 3D visualizations and perspective drawings to show what that pedestrian connection could look like. Now, one of the things that a grocery store requires is parking. So we weren't able to get exactly what we had hoped for through the process, but we were able to secure an easement across private property. So a sidewalk that actually goes across the site for public access. The city then extended that walkway to the trail system in behind the Queso Station. And we're hoping to work with the Queso Station and the property owners to potentially take a couple of those parking spaces and create some pop-up plantings to hopefully start to green this corridor. So through analysis like GIS, we can start to look at how these connections could grow and serve the greater community. So I mentioned that there's an old railway corridor, and it actually runs parallel to Talbot Street along Center Street. Now, the hope was that there'd be a trail along this corridor, but those sections of land were sold. So we knew that because of a new development that was happening on Center Street, that they were going to start reconstructing the road. So we decided to take our student skills and apply them to this project. And up in the top right, you can see what we call the railway lands, and the Giant Tiger site is up there. And in the lower left, we have Canada's first elevated park, an old railway trestle that has been converted to a park for the public to use. Students created cross sections of Center Street and how, if you removed parking on one side of the road, we could have enough room in the public right of way for a multi-use trail on the north side of Center Street. We also showed development opportunities. So how could you actually develop this very narrow railway corridor, former railway corridor, with infill residential housing that's been sort of turned 90 degrees on the site so that they're wide, shallow units. And then maybe how we could take existing park features in the city and extend them to connect to the trail system on Center Street. The students also created 2D or 3D perspectives, pedestrian perspectives, of how this development would look, how the trail would function, the parking, and the potential extension of the park. We sent these images to counselors, to staff at the city, and it was picked up by environmental services. They asked if they could use our renderings as part of the reconstruction presentation to report to council. And council approved the reconstruction of Center Street based on the visualizations that were presented to council. Here's a photo of the trail from behind Queso Station. This is my son riding his bike. Off in the distance to the left, you can see a new building. That's a new retirement living residence that is on Center Street. And over the past 3 years, they've reconstructed Center Street. Almost a third or to a half of Center Street has been reconstructed with a multi-use trail on the north side of the road. We hope that over time that this trail will be extended all the way to St. Thomas's Elevated Park. And this is an image of the park that has been completed through private funds and donations. And the elevated park, again, is Canada's first elevated park. And by making these contributions to the community, we can help to promote good urban planning decisions to try to make better use of the amenities that we have within our community. So I would like to thank everybody for listening and I hope you enjoyed the presentation and understand a bit more about the GIS Urban Planning Program and what faculty like Will and myself do on a daily basis to get our students prepared for working in this industry. I'll hand it
Thank
back
you
to
very much.
Caitlin now.
Thanks, Russ.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you, Russell and Will. Great presentation. We do have a couple questions that I'd like to address in the time we have left. This program obviously has a lot of applied learning opportunities and opportunities to engage in projects. Can you tell us a little bit about how the program is structured in terms of studio time and lecture time so students can anticipate the mix?
Yeah, a lot of the work that we do is project-based. So if you're taking a technical class like GIS, presentation graphics, or AutoCAD, now you're typically working on projects and there'll be demonstrations, which may feel like lectures, but you're actually working on the projects that you're trying to finish. Typically, we see about 50-50 split between actually working on projects and lecture time. In some courses, it's different. Will, your classes are a little bit different?
Yeah, my classes are mostly lecture with about a third practical applications. But I think it's important to know that Russ and I cooperate so that the work you would be doing in a technical GIS course, we would be doing the same project from a theory or planning perspective. So we integrate both the technical and the theory parts of our program.
Great, thank you. And in your experience, how quickly do graduates tend to find work after completing the program?
Pre-pandemic, typically students are applying for jobs, co-op positions, well before the beginning of the term. Job postings go out typically starting January 1st. So students are applying for co-op positions pretty early on. When it comes to full-time positions, we typically ask them to start applying for those after reading week, so at the beginning of March, because by the time you apply and go through the interview process, you're pretty much ready to go at the end of the work, at the end of the academic term. Traditionally, everybody is, sort of, I would say about 80% of the students have something secured pretty close to the end of their academic time, while others, take advantage of those degree pathways that Will was speaking about, going on to become hopefully a registered professional planner if they're inspired to, through the environmental design and planning program here at Fanshawe or Ryerson or Waterloo planning schools.
Thank you. You mentioned a number of softwares that students would become very familiar and experts using throughout the program. Do students need any sort of special type of laptop? Do they have to purchase that software themselves when they're in the program?
There isn't a specific, sort of computer that we expect them to have. We are a Windows-based program just because Esri's ArcGIS software only runs on the Windows platform. So even if you have a Mac, you have to be able to run Boot Camp to run Windows on that machine. But typically a Windows machine, i5, i7 processor, 16 gig of RAM would be recommended. We do run some 3D software. Usually what I ask students to do, if they have something in mind, they can just send me the link to that computer and I can give them some feedback if it would fit or not. We also have access to our computer labs as well. And we have awesome machines that do a lot of the 3D rendering, the heavy lifting.
Fantastic. And then last question for today, what can a student do to prepare for this program before they start?
Well, how about you take this one?
In terms of preparation, students should be, if they have a chance, using AutoCAD, maybe even some online GIS if they have a chance to. Certainly from a planning perspective, getting out into the community, looking around at land uses, residential, commercial, institutional, developing an interest in urban planning and how municipalities and governments work and how communities evolve and change. And thinking about how your participation in this program is going to make your community a better place to live in.
Great. Well, thank you both very much for joining us today. And to the students who have joined us, thank you for attending our virtual open house. We are doing sessions all week long. If you have any questions, you're very welcome to email myfuture@fanshawec.ca, which is on the screen now. And enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you both.
Yeah,
Thanks,
we
Caitlin.
look forward to having the students attend our program. Take care. Have a good day.
Thank you.